Do you really need a heat mat? Hey folks, do you need a heat mat if you're starting your own seed? Boy, it's cold outside today and windy, so I think, man, what a good day to cover this subject, because a lot of you may be asking you a question, do I really need a heat mat? We're going to go over that today, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips and tricks and cover all this best I can. First of all, yes, you're going to need a heat mat if you're starting all your seeds indoors or outdoors. Now the exception of that is, and I'm going to be looking here on our seed map, because on our germination heat mat here we have all the optimal soil temperatures for each crop you want to grow. And I say each crop, there's probably 20 of them on there, and it shows what germination temperature you need for each one of those. Example, if you're going to be starting leeks, if you're going to be starting onions, if you're going to be starting spinach, those like 70 to 75 degrees. So theoretically, you could start those without a heat mat in a room that is 70 degrees, which most of us keep our houses, our offices around 70 degrees. So you could start those without a heat mat, no problem. But if you're going to start other crops such as beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, tomatoes, peppers, and of course okra and watermelons, you're going to need a heat mat. A lot of misinformation out there about heat mats. I'm going to try to clarify and maybe share some insight on that today. Heat mats work best when you're working off of ambient temperature. So let's just say you keep your house at 70 degrees and you're according to your chart here, let's pick one out. Cauliflower. So cauliflower has an optimal germination temperature at 80 degrees. So to start these, I would put these in a 70 degree room. I would turn my heat mat on 80 degrees using my thermostat. You always want to use a thermostat with a heat mat, and that is the best way to do. You want to work off an ambient temperature anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees. This is not going to work properly if you're outside in 40 degree weather and you're trying to germinate peppers and tomatoes and things like that. You really want to work off that ambient temperature, and you want to work off 10 to 15 degrees there. So for the most part, you can start all your plants indoors in a 70 degree room using one of these heat mats. Let's just go over a few of them here. Okra at 95 degrees. So you need a pretty warm room for that. Tomatoes 85 degrees. Squash 95 degrees. So all those have different. Now if you're mixing up your tray, don't get all hung up about having exact, just try to meet somewhere in the middle there. But most people don't understand that you got to be working off ambient temperature. We have it all the time. People are buying these heat mats and they're putting them in their unheated greenhouse or putting them outside, and they're expecting them to work in freezing or real cold temperatures. It just does not work that way. So remember, ambient temperature is a huge thing to consider when you're starting your own seeds. Now I'm going to talk about heat mats for a minute, because there's a lot of different ones out there and there's a lot of different price points. The one we carry is insulated, and it's also sealed throughout. What you will see with the cheaper heat mats is along the edge right here, they're sealed, but they're not sealed inside there. So therefore, if that seal is compromised at any given time and any moisture gets in there, then your heat mat goes bad. Ours is sealed throughout. It's also insulated. And it's double insulated, matter of fact, and it is one of only 2 germination mats out there that have the UL, which is Underwriters Laboratories seal of approval on the mat. What that means is it's been tested for safety measures. Also, it can withstand a flame within 5 inches of the mat here, and it won't melt. So it's I'm going to say fire retardant. That's probably the best word to use. I ain't going to say fire resistant. but it's one of the best heat mats out there. It's not the cheapest one out there by no means. We're not going to put our name on an inferior product. So we was real careful about getting a germination mat that met our standards here. I think we got them in 4 different sizes here. So consider the quality of the heat mat before you jump on Amazon or somewhere and look at price points of them, because there is a huge difference in quality of them out there. Now this is something that you're normally going to put inside your house or your carport or somewhere, and you really want to be concerned about getting a high quality one, because you know we got electricity feeding this thing, heating it up, so you want ones that's going to be safe and you feel good about. Let me see if I can get the thermostat over here. Here you go. You got to use the thermostat with the germination mat here, and you can set this thing to the temperature you want it to be at. Now you got this little probe here that you need to put into your tray, and that will keep up what your soil temperature is, and that gives your thermostat knowledge of knowing if it needs to heat up or not to get your soil level where you want it at. All right, now that we have covered heat mats, one more thing before I forget it. Always get one big enough for the size trays you're going to do. If you're doing the small 10, 20 trays, you can get by with a lot smaller heat mat. If you're doing our 162s and 338s, or you doing more than one tray, you want to make sure you get a heat mat big enough to cover the entire area of the tray that you're trying to germinate. Now, on most of our seed starting kits, we have humidity domes. We do not have humidity domes for our 338s and our 162s, but I'm going to show you a trick here that you can do that works really well to germinate your plants. See there? So I planted my crops in there, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones, and I wrapped it in saran wrap. Heck, I bought some saran wrap. Let's see if I can find it here. I bought this at the dollar store for $1. That's right, dollar store for $1. And I still got plenty left over. And I wrap this up good. And what that's going to do, you can see the moisture already in there. It keeps that moisture. Now, after I planted my seed and I put my perlite in, I watered it in good. The key to it is you got to have it watered really well, then wrap it with a saran wrap. And what that does is it keeps that humidity inside of that tray there and helps some seeds germinate. You put that on your heat mat and boom, that's as good as it gets. And then you just cut that wrap off when you need to be. Now cabbage and cold crops, I'm going to say COLE, cold crops such as Brussels sprouts, kale, any of those collards, any of those, one day. 24 hours is ideal for this right here. For crops such as bell pepper and sweet peppers, 5 days. Hot peppers 3 days and then cut it off. And tomatoes is 3 days and cut it off. And what this will do is help you get consistent, quick germination so those seeds can pop. And then you get this outside in direct sunlight or underneath the germination light. And you don't want your plants to get leggy. As soon as you get them underneath that, they're going to start growing. So there you have it, folks. Hope I shared some few tips with you today. This is ideal right here, and it's easy. So get out there and get dirty. So if you want to know more about our products or you want to learn more about vegetable garden, check out these videos.